MapleStory was a phenomenon like any other. There was World of Warcraft, RuneScape, EverQuest in terms of online role-playing games in the early 2000s, but then came a humble little game called MapleStory. It was developed by a South Korean company called Wizet and released as early as 2003, with the global version hitting the States in 2005. Looking at the footage now, for those who have never played the game, one would probably wonder what is so special about this. Trust me, the game took the online world by storm, becoming one of the most popular online games ever in its initial conception, generating billions of dollars and having millions of players. The game has had so much appeal from all age types and genders, being one of the few online games that I can think of that I could really recommend to almost anyone. Even the advertisement campaigns were weird, but it came across as strangely charming and humble. Check them out.
What are you guys doing?
We're slapping each other in the face with a fish.
Why are you doing that?
Because we can. And it's free.
There's just like MapleStory, the free online game where you get to hang out with friends and experience the out of the ordinary.
Come join us at MapleStory.com for free. Rated retail for ages 10 and up.
You wanna try?
We're slapping each other in the face with a fish. Fish.
Also, is it just me, or is this the guy who plays Agent Nadim on the Netflix Daredevil? Am I being weird here? MapleStory was also one of the first, if not the first, 2D platforming MMORPG, so it also appealed to those who enjoyed games like Super Mario World, since essentially, in concept, that's what it was to an extent, even going down to the size of your character sprite. It even had a sequel, MapleStory 2, bringing the game into the 3D realm, and even had some funny commercials of its own to bring back some of that nostalgia.
Good morning, Maple Street. And your hairline? Well, your hairline died a while ago.
So for those watching who have never heard of the game, if it's so popular, how have you missed it for the past 2 decades? Unfortunately, when MapleStory tried to evolve to catch the new gaming trends, it alienated a lot of its original player base. You see, even though MapleStory is cutesy in its art style and charm, the game was still very much a hardcore experience at its heart, requiring time and effort and dedication to grow your character. Back before a controversial update called the Big Bang, the game felt very rewarding for having a high-leveled character, and people would marvel at seeing higher-leveled players. Big Bang changed all of that, making the game cater to the casual market in an effort to widen its appeal, but ultimately failing in the end. Nowadays, MapleStory isn't really talked about anymore, and when it is seen on social media websites like Facebook, some of the more common comments you will see is to bring back classic MapleStory or that the game is simply dead. So like my previous video on DC Universe Online, I'm here to bring the game to the light and analyze it under a microscope as I share some of its history. So is MapleStory dead or alive? MapleStory's development history isn't really well documented, at least from what I could find. Anything dating back to its initial conception, which was somewhere in 2002 and possibly earlier, is just not on the web. Even using the Wayback website, the earliest thing I could find on MapleStory is this early snapshot of the Wizet company talking about MapleStory in 2002. The lines shown in the screenshot here when translated roughly translates to online game MapleStory, scheduled to open in September. The date of this snapshot dates June 2002, which slightly matches up to MapleStory's release window, possibly hinting that this was maybe a beta signup for the game, or that the game was delayed, since MapleStory actually released in South Korea on April 29th, 2003. Going into Wizet a little further, Wizet formed sometime in 2001 in Seoul, South Korea. Shortly after releasing MapleStory, Wizet merged with Nexon, seeing a massive success. Nexon then began publishing MapleStory to other territories besides Korea. Japan saw the release of MapleStory on December 3rd, 2003, North America on May 11th, 2005, Taiwan on June 1st, 2005, Southeast Asia on June 23rd, 2005, Europe on April 12th, 2007, and finally, recently, Thailand on October 31st, 2017. In this video, we're going to concentrate on the global release of MapleStory, otherwise known as GMS, or simply the North American English release of the game. So MapleStory, as I stated, releases on May 11th, 2005 in North America, to critical acclaim. There is TV commercials, positive reviews, and fundamentally, the game is successful on one principle alone: it's free to play. At the time in the MMORPG market, free to play games were not common. RuneScape was definitely one that can be mentioned, but in 2005, this was more common in the Korean market than in North America, at least mainstream wise. MapleStory became one of the pioneers in the market to show that free to play could be profitable, with Nexon becoming one of the biggest companies to lead the charge in the free-to-play market for North America. Many games would follow in the later years, trying to get a slice of the pie. This leads to the first controversy that MapleStory would face in its early years: scrutiny under the American media. I personally remember watching this Fox News story. It was weird to see the game I played on the news being covered, especially in this way, but it was strangely relatable. Take a look.
Battling cartoon monsters, using magical powers and potions, swords, weapons, and trickery.
It's fun.
It's a video game called MapleStory, a hot new virtual hangout among school-aged kids. Nexon says MapleStory already has 4 million players in the United States who spent millions of real dollars in their virtual world.
It's fun.
Around 2006 and 2007, it was actually not rare to have an average player spend well over $100 on average on the game in a short span of time. Since the game was so grindy, the cash shop offered things like double experience, stat increasing items, even equipment through its NX Cash market, where if you had something to sell, you could even earn NX Cash by selling another player something on that system. This was the first time I can remember in America that the mass became aware of what would become the dreaded microtransaction. Pay to win started to become rampant in MapleStory in the years to come, obviously driving players away. But even then, the game still had a healthy player base and saw many content updates. Currently, most would agree that the best version, or quote unquote, classic version of MapleStory is considered version 62, which included features such as the pirate class, a lot of endgame content, relatively balanced gameplay, and furthermore, a lot of community engagement. In later versions, more and more classes were released, bloating gameplay. Many more pay-to-win features were implemented into the cash shop to hound players to spend money. Gameplay drove away community engagement to a more solo experience. Then, at the culmination of it all, in an effort to revamp and essentially reboot MapleStory's life, something called Big Bang was announced, and then finally released on December 7th, 2010 in GMS. It is widely criticized as being the most controversial update to the game, changing many features of the game that players liked, including making the game much easier to capture the casual audience and hopefully revitalize the game. The problem was that the game already had mass appeal. Players of all age types were drawn to the game: kids, adults, males, and surprisingly enough, females, which at the time was not a common statistic. So to lose a lot of the player base from these fundamental changes has always been the most common criticism. Now, I won't say it was solely based on Big Bang that drove the mass away, as it did have some good features that were good for the game. I think most would agree that it was more so the pay-to-win aspects that were driving players away. Items that could make gear stronger, reroll stats, and even in-game gachapons were widely negative topics. Because of the microtransactions and realistically the game being so popular, many black market websites popped up over the years selling leveling services and in-game money. There was even a trading card game created for MapleStory similar to the World of Warcraft trading card game. However, this was quickly discontinued, as during this time, the popularity of the game was starting to dwindle. The card game also faced a lot of criticism due to having items that could only be earned by buying those cards. Those items were considered some of the best equipment in the game at the time, therefore once again being argued as pay to win. Recently, MapleStory did start implementing better systems to start removing pay to win, such as frequent cash shop overhauls, but things like gachapons still exist, which is unfortunate because the game is still kind of fun to play, and it will always leave a sour taste in those certain players' mouths. Nexon, seeing the declining player base of their game, made one positive step towards recovering their once massive player base. On November 23rd, 2015, the Reboot update was released. Reboot implemented a specialized server that was made specifically as an effort to recover the hardcore fan base. This server restricted things such as trading to make players have to work harder to earn their power rather than just buying it. When Reboot released, the server was actually so full, for a time you couldn't even create a character on it. Since then, besides maybe some of the older servers and because of server merging, Reboot is now the most played server for MapleStory, suggesting that MapleStory's fans are those that miss the old days. Moving forward to the present, the game is still going steady with the previously mentioned content updates that happen every couple of months. Personally, I find current MapleStory incredibly foreign to me and rather confusing. The game bombards you with just way too much visual jargon to the point of annoyance. Cash shop advertisements, daily quests, daily news, super shots from players, overly flashy skills, explosions, loud noises, the list goes on. It's just a mess. I've also read reports that hacking is at an all-time high with current MapleStory in the past couple of years, which is a shame, and I'm sure Nexon Wizet is trying their hardest to alleviate that issue. Fortunately, Nexon Wizet seems to refuse to give up on the game. It's almost 15 years at this point and definitely still has a die-hard fan base. MapleStory is a franchise worth fighting for. Besides the online game, there has also been several mobile games, a MapleStory DS game, and a discontinued Facebook game, with the Facebook game personally being my favorite. Rest in peace, MapleStory Adventures. It's still the most popular 2D platforming MMORPG as far as I know, with its competitors either being shut down or at this point fading into obscurity, with MapleStory still standing on top over them. Overall, I wonder, was this game lightning in a bottle? And that's why the developers can't seem to recover its once flourishing player base. Did MapleStory enter the market at a perfect time to solidify itself as the best 2D platforming MMORPG, or is it still on top simply because no one else has tried to dethrone it in its recent years? Personally, MapleStory holds a very special place in my youth. I remember coming home and immediately jumping on the game to play with my friends for hours on end. I made a lot of special memories, friendships, and relationships that honestly, no game has come close to matching, and I fear no other game will come close. So if you've made it this far into the video, I would like to ask you, the viewer, is MapleStory dead? Comment down below and let me know what you think about MapleStory. I reply to all comments, so I would truly like to know what everyone's opinions are. Like DC Universe Online, I do still hold a little bit of bias for this fun little online game. I'd like to think it can one day bounce back and maybe take a note from some of the other big games releasing classic versions or non-pay-to-win versions, like World of Warcraft Classic and Arcade Unchained. Oh, and before anyone comments, I specifically did not talk about any particular private servers for MapleStory, since I don't want to bring any negative attention to them, but I will say they in particular go to show that we the fans truly miss MapleStory. That's all for this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked this video and would like to support me, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, as well as sharing the video to your friends and such. Trust me, it really helps. I also have links to my social media sites in the description, so if you would like to follow me there, please follow those links. As always, I'd also like to give a shout out to my supporters that give feedback on Discord. Finally, one last thanks to those who watch, and I hope to talk to you in the comment section. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.